Hi, I'm Sam,
I'm Matt.
and we just finished watching the episode 11 of season 9 of Doctor Who.
I wonder if it has a name. Heaven sent.
Heaven Sent. So it was quite a different one. From usual. I don't think they New Who has ever done an episode like this. Yeah.
I mean, like, as far as a one-man show, pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been an episode like this.
Pretty unprecedented. And and you've seen all the old series. Now, Granted, I think this might be a bit of a more modern idea to even think of doing
it is. Like,
so
I mean, this is the sort of thing you can't... Okay, here's the thing. This is the sort of episode you can't make unless you have all the money or no money.
Okay.
Basically...
The no money part is obvious because there's only one.
Well, no. I mean, but what I mean, like, either you can do this either if your show is so small you don't have like network concerns, or your show is so big that the network will be able to be like, you know what, just do it.
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen?
We're pretty consistent. Although I guess Doctor Who ratings have dropped.
They drop because
the new time slot,
they're airing it an hour later,
which is rough. And this was an hour later.
or I think I was actually counting on it being us being GMT minus 6, but we are GMT minus 5.
Okay.
Anyway, I mean, obviously, we watched this at the normal time that it airs.
Mm-hmm. It's a weird little episode that I was not expecting until I guess it seemed like last episode's preview guaranteed something like this, but I sort of thought that about halfway through, Big Bad would show up.
Yeah, I was expecting...
And then those speeches would start.
Yeah.
So I was actually surprised.
This was pretty much exactly what the preview...
Guaranteed?
made it look like. I mean, previews are far from guarantees.
Well, yeah, but their guarantee was as good as... as it happens to be. And in this case, it was accurate. You want accurate marketing because it's helpful to be able to know what you're going to watch to a certain extent.
Yeah, and yet it was without spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
It was perfect because it told you what the episode would be, but it didn't spoil it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, the thing is, it's kind of like you could say what happened in it, but this episode really is not about what happens in the episode.
Yeah, because to a certain extent, a lot of things that happen are... It's all a continuum of the same thing,
This is just like one slice of the story of the episode.
Yeah.
So, here's basically what happens, is... it's the Doctor wakes up and he's being stalked by a mystery monster that wants him to confess 2 things.
And will not stop not killing him for a while if he confesses something that he has hidden for his whole life.
Yep. And he has to make a confession to not die, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And
one of his confessions is, I'm afraid to die.
Yes.
Which is nice little symmetry.
Yep. I like that all the confessions he makes end with or include, I'm scared.
Mm-hmm.
I'm scared to die. I didn't leave, I left Gallifrey because I was scared of, something.
Mm-hmm.
That particular confession did not sound quite right, because of the volume mixing we've been talking about all season.
Oh yeah, it's like the very quiet scene where he's in his inner mental chamber, which looks like the TARDIS, and suddenly he says
I knew because I was born. It's like, the reason is still trying to kill you, Doctor, is you don't enunciate.
He has no idea what you just said. And he's like a celestial being of pure haunting you. You'd think he would be equipped to understand you.
He wakes up, he goes through some events, he jumps out a window into a lake of skulls.
Yeah.
Just
Skulls and skulls and skulls. About
Yeah. He's in a weird castle. Like, he jumps out this window into a lake of skulls, and he goes around the castle, and he eventually gets to a wall made of the hardest metal known to man.
Yeah.
And
the hardest
item. It's like
super diamond.
It's like 400 times as strong as diamond.
2 million times as strong as diamond.
Whatever it is. The point is, it's like 20 feet of basically diamond.
Mhm.
And the monster's closing in, and he has to confess something about the hybrid.
The hybrid they've been talking about this whole season. Some badass combination of two warrior races that's going to make something happen.
Yep.
It's always been a vague prophecy. It's weird. I'm more used to something a little more concrete, I guess.
Yeah.
This
There will be a hybrid, and it will be bad.
Yeah. It will be
there was
significant.
There were these prophecies before the Time War that,
Yeah.
like, the Time War echoed through history, so everyone knew what was, like, there were these prophecies about what would come, which is cool. I like the idea of the image of the Time
They
War.
are Time Lords. It makes sense.
Yeah, like, I like when the Time War is not so much like a series of battles or whatever, but the Time War is almost this weird mystical place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's...
And they've been pretty good about that in the series in general.
Yeah.
Making the Time War a thing.
The could have been king. His army of...
never words,
never
probably.
words.
Yeah.
I got the never words, and there was maybes and never words.
Yeah, that could be it.
But anyway,
Because the fact that they don't explore that, like that time is all screwed up and like everything is.
I'm telling you, I'm hoping for the could have been king to come. I want
It could still be the could have been king behind all this.
I want the Doctor to fight the could have been king.
It's even connected to the Time War now. It can happen. It can be this episode.
It's gonna be so.
No, it's gonna be Santa. It's gotta be Santa.
The Doctor basically so he gets to this super diamond wall.
Yeah.
Gets to the super diamond wall, and he needs to confess something about the hybrid to get through the super diamond wall. But he's refusing to do it, and instead he punches the wall.
Yeah. And he's like, ow! And at first I was completely ignorant of the plan.
Yeah.
I really love
It took me a second. It took, like, even though I was fairly certain about what the twist was going to be.
Yeah, it didn't occur to me that full
I was a little
ramification.
unsure of why he was just like
Punching
he was
the
talking
wall.
about the Brothers Grimm and punching a wall.
And it just feels totally pointless because, as you said, it's like 20. It's like 30 feet or something.
Yes. And
it's
the monster gets
way
him.
harder than Diamond. He punches it, but it's totally pointless. He's still telling the story.
Yeah, like and it opened, of course, like you see somebody activate the teleporter and disintegrate into dust.
Because he got teleported at the end of last
Somebody
episode.
with like a burned hand, yeah.
Someone with a creepy burned hand.
Yeah.
Disintegrates. So Doctor shows up, and then from the very start, I was suspicious because of the weird old hand.
Yep.
It was clearly messed up, but still, I mean, obviously spoilers, but I mean, duh.
Yeah.
Like I suspected from the beginning that it was the Doctor somehow.
Yeah.
Because this felt self-inflicted, especially after he's like, "You're a creature from my nightmare."
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? But I never dreamed that there was gonna be until
what this was.
Yeah, until like about halfway through, or a little less, that it was gonna be tons of Doctors. And
Yeah,
not,
so
not just two.
Yeah, this was like a recursive loop.
Mm-hmm.
Basically what happens is the Doctor is, like, he gets there, the monster burns him, and he goes back to the teleporter room
Yeah.
and summons the next version of himself.
Yeah.
Gets out and starts the events of the episode
Yeah.
over exactly.
So he punches the wall, the super diamond wall bit, gets murdered, and then, because dying takes a while for Time Lords apparently, goes upstairs, teleports a new copy of himself that's in memory.
Leaves the message bird for him.
Bird, because first of all because he saw the message bird, and now he's trapped. Bootstrap paradox.
But more
importantly, it's actually clever. Unlike
yes, well, and also because birds, as you know, pretty great. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
birds are awesome.
Especially that bird, though.
One of the better birds I've known of.
So they got the loop. First of all, I've been on the record as being upset with Moffat's obsession with ontological paradoxes, the bootstrap paradox and such. But this kind of loop, first of all, is not technically time travel, but that's not very important. They haven't done this kind of loop in Doctor Who.
It's not a loop, yeah.
It's not actually a loop, as you say. I was expecting a loop.
It's a loop of events, because every time the events play out identically, and like, you know, he sees the stars and it's been 7,000 years, and he finds out it's been because he's been living over these basically 3 days, which end with punching the diamond wall for 7,000 years. And
that's great, and they really lean into that mystery, and I really couldn't, even though I'd cracked so many of the other mysteries of the episode by that point, I still didn't occur to me. So a large part of the
he starts, and here's
it didn't occur to me why it would be 7,000 years later. It's like, I haven't time traveled, I'm sure of that, and yet I'm 7,000 years in the future.
There's some great things they do, I think, with camera work here.
Yes, and camera is a star.
And I want to go with there was one I noticed during the episode, but the one I want to talk about is at the end of the episode, as we see him punching the wall, and he's telling the monster the story of,
sorry. Just turning it off. My bad.
Unscripted, folks.
This is what you can expect from Bird Brain Productions.
High quality.
Yeah, sorry. You were saying?
You see him telling this story, sort of basically kind of desperately, and punching the wall. And he punches the wall, and basically he's breaking his wrist when he punches the wall. That's gonna hurt. He's slamming into the wall, he's like, ah, God. Over and over, and telling this story of the bird that goes to the mountain and sharpens its beak on the tip of a mountain once every 1,000,000 years, and eventually whittles down the mountain.
And this being in response to the question, how many seconds are an eternity?
Yeah, and then
I didn't know that story, but I know it now.
Yeah, and it's partly also great because the first time we hear it, he can't even get to the really, I think, to the start.
He didn't even start the story. It's just the
a
setup.
King says to a peasant boy.
Yeah.
He says peasant boy, and then he gets.
Yeah. But this is brilliant writing, because it naturally sets up a montage that also, would logically necessarily continue the story bit by bit. So every time, naturally, since he's punching through the diamond wall, he gets a little closer to the end.
Yeah, we see a couple events from the episode. We see him dropping something, him jumping out a window, knocking a skull off, and then we see the story continue another.
And at first, I still didn't get the gist of why he was punching the wall. I was struggling to hear it through the music and his Scottish accent. I still haven't really adapted to, honestly. But I still wasn't getting the gist of it. And then you notice that there's a bit of an indent in the wall, and you're like, shit. And then you get more of the story, and you're like, of course. So we get to hear the story coming out naturally, because of course they would cut to the point which is different from what we've already seen. Yeah. So the montage format actually suits the story very well.
Yeah, and yet we also do keep cutting back to those same couple events, dropping an examination glass in front of a portrait of Clara that he identified as old, possibly very old. He dates it to possibly extremely old.
But here's the thing, with the loop, not quite loop, of those events, showing all those shots again.
Yep.
That's where, as you're saying, the camera work is amazing, consistently. It's a beautifully lit, beautifully shot, beautifully designed setting. Mm-hmm. There's all sorts of stuff going on visually. It looks great, and there are these great images, like the dropping of the spoon in the soup at the moment when he finally realizes how tired he is. He's trapped for eternity. There's no reason this would ever stop. And at this point, it seems like he doesn't even fully realize how much it is like eternity, because it's going to be millions of years.
Yeah. So there's a great, but yeah, what I really love, and I want to praise the shooting and the editing, is as we see him in the future telling this story over and over, we do see him punching the wall, but very effectively. Now, a problem that we have a lot of the time in movies is you don't see a punch really connect. You basically see like the punch coming in, the camera cuts
then
here.
You cut, and then you go to the reverse angle, and then you show.
And then we basically the camera would like cut here, go reverse angle, and it would be showing your reaction.
Yeah.
But it would actually like be starting a second later.
So you never show the hit.
Yeah, and what was very effective was they were showing the hit when he was punching the wall the first
showing the whole shot.
It would be one continuous shot. I mean, that had to actually hurt.
Because I laughed out loud when he punched it. It really deflated the scenario because, as I said, again, I didn't understand why he was doing it.
The first time he punched it, it is kind of funny, but then he keeps punching it and it works the desperation.
Yeah.
As semi-humorous as it is, drives the desperation in that all he can think to do is punch this wall.
Yes. Because it didn't seem like a plan yet. But I still found it enheartening because I trust the Doctor. I know that whatever he knows about the hybrid is a bad thing to tell.
Yeah.
So it's important to not tell it. The fact he's not giving up means something to me.
Yeah.
It means he's still trying to do his job as the Doctor.
Yeah, he won't give up.
An era which is so concerned with what the Doctor is, that's important.
Yeah, and he's not giving up. Whatever he does, even if all he has is I'm gonna punch this wall. But they would show just one full shot, of bam, punches the wall, reacts, goes back, cries out in pain, continues talking.
Yeah.
First time it's fine. We keep cutting. And then he goes back to it and then cries out in pain, and it goes. It quickly moves back to tragedy by the end of that scene, and back to the desperation. But what was very good about that, I felt, was once we cut to the montage, we no longer actually see the hit.
Because the hit, you can feel the hit though, right?
We can kind of feel it.
It's the rhythm of these events. It's in.
Well, yes, but it takes away the
pain.
The pain and
no, you're right.
The comedy and the desperation, because now it becomes the determination.
Mm-hmm.
We see not the I don't care what I have to do. I'm just going to punch this wall if I have to punch this wall. We now see I've found the answer. I'm going to punch this wall, and I'm going to die, and then I'm going to go back and go these same events. And basically, it's not as you say, not a time loop.
Yeah.
Because
it builds on itself.
Yeah,
that's so much more satisfying emotion.
If there is anything that is a bootstrap paradox, the only thing that could be said to be something like a bootstrap paradox would be him leaving his coat that the next incarnation finds and puts on.
Yeah. That's a little weird though, because the rooms are supposed to reset, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't they reset that? Maybe outside materials don't.
Well, maybe they reset to when he first, I guess when he left. They reset to the original go, I guess? I don't know. I mean, his corpse is in the room.
Yeah.
As well.
So, there are little problems. I think that those
It's
are
a little
problems.
unclear.
I don't actually care.
It does. I don't know if I'd call them problems because that doesn't really seem to be that key to how it works. The only reason
it's more like we're not quite clear on it, the exact details, but there could be a version of this weird thing.
It could be the things involving the Doctor don't reset. Mm-hmm. Something the Doctor dropped will reset. Literally just the Doctor.
Yeah, but the skulls won't reset.
Exactly, the skulls don't reset. His coat doesn't reset. His ashes don't reset.
So it's actually not that much of a problem because we know some things. Obviously, there are a lot of things here that don't reset. So we just got to assume there's some rule.
Yeah. So the only loopish thing about that would be that I guess the first time the Doctor just wants to spend the rest of the adventure naked. Which is pretty great.
There are a number of. The thing about this.
To me, the thing is that's not a problem. It's just a nitpick. Mm-hmm. To me, the difference between a problem and a nitpick is whether you're at a plot hole or a problem, or just a little is whether the story actually relies on it.
Yeah, a nitpick appears and then vanishes. A problem will not vanish.
Yeah, and like it's clear this works some way which seems consistent. The only things we see stay are the things that the Doctor personally had on him when he appeared.
So, I feel like the impression I got talking to you afterwards was that we both got most of it in advance. And Moffat promised a big twist or something?
I guess the twist is that it's Gallifrey?
I guess, but...
I even honestly, and I was wrong when I saw it, when he saw the stars and was confused. I was like, oh, Gallifrey. Confused because these are the stars of Gallifrey. It's like, it's 7,000 years from now. I'm like, oh.
Huh.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the twist is, but this is not a story that is overly reliant on twists, because you can feel it coming. Like, I think that once I saw the dry clothes that are exactly like the Doctor's when he comes to that fireplace and he takes them.
He leaves his clothes in the exact position.
That is exact position. Like, if Moffat wanted to keep it a secret, he's either he didn't want to keep it a secret or he's incompetent. And to be honest, I don't think...
Or there's something else he thinks is the twist.
Yes, and I guess the actual solution to the problem, I didn't realize. So he wins.
Yeah, and yet it makes perfect sense. And I mean, what sort of my first hint was, I saw all those skulls. I was like, those are probably skulls of the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And later we even get a camera cut up from his face to the skull, and it overlaid perfectly.
Yeah, and I didn't realize it was going to be the Doctor's skull until the skull fell into the lake, and I'm like, oh, of course, that's excellent.
Yeah,
because every single skull in there came from up there.
Yeah, and it's infinite recurrent, and that's why there's only skulls and no other bones in the lake.
Because that was the only one that survived.
Yep.
But
and of course, like then you get like the loop of, well, where'd the first skull come from?
Doc.
Oh wait, no, yeah, because he dies in the first time.
Yeah.
He didn't.
The first time is a little weird, as you say. He'd have to be naked.
Yeah, he would have had to be naked and play things out a little differently.
Whatever.
Again,
I can nitpick.
Yeah,
I can let it pass.
Yeah, it's a nitpick, and like I'd be willing to say, like even the first 100 times things played out, like for a while.
Yeah,
the first 100 years.
The wall, maybe.
I'll be willing to say, like the first 100 years, things played out differently the first several times.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, when you try something, basically when you loop over and over, you'll eventually get to a loop where your actions will be the same the second time. And because it's him, the actions are the same the third time, and the fourth time, and the fifth time.
And then once you get that rolling, you're good.
Yeah.
The one thing, though, is, I guess it's a little surprising that the Doctor never screwed up. Because if you screw up, you don't make a new version of yourself, and then it's over. So basically, the Doctor has to be the ultimate badass for this to work. So it sort of is fine. Because
well, after the first time, he will never have a chance to screw up.
Why?
I mean, after like the first time the loop is settled.
Yeah. Because he always has the same behavior. So it's fine.
And because of the way he dies, and I kind of the implication of how how far the last room 12 is from the top of from the place, he will. I trust the Doctor to get to room 12 every time.
Because if you start with the same, you have the same starting conditions, the same events will occur.
Exactly,
so,
and it's
a weird. Sorry,
it's a time loop, but it isn't. And this is one of these things I really like in sort of time travel things. And though again, this isn't exactly time travel. Is the idea? It's not that like you're destined. It's just that when this occurs, this is what you will do, not because you are destined or fated, but because it's you.
Mm-hmm. And that's important because, again, this is an episode where the Doctor is, in some ways, predestined. He's locked into the things he does. But as you say, the things he does are the only things that would lead him out. Punching that wall every incarnation.
For 2 billion years.
For 2 billion years. And to a certain extent, it's not as impressive as it would be if it were one incarnation of him remembering all of it. But regardless, his determination through all these copies of him, because he's the guy who punches the wall, he wins.
Yeah. And here's another thing I like. When he was resetting his coat by the fireplace, the manner in which he reset it, there was sort of like the way this is such a physical episode. Like, Capaldi turns in a fucking Emmy-winning performance.
Think so?
If it was aired in America, I would hope it would get a chance at an Emmy. It's aired in Britain, so I'd hope it gets a chance at a BAFTA.
Mm-hmm.
But this is one of the best performances I have seen on TV. Like, physically, like the way he gives his lines. And this bit, physically, I liked a lot. Because the way he resets the clothes is not like, I have figured out this is what I need to do. More sort of, I'm aware time travel is a thing. These are the same clothes. I should do it just in case.
Just in case there's a loop going on.
Just in case it matters, with kind of not, like, the way it's like, he's not sure it matters. If it was just totally irrelevant, he would not at all be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
He just kind of thought it might be a practical idea.
It's like, already it's a weird enough environment. Maybe it's normal to just find his clothes there waiting for him.
Yeah.
He doesn't know yet. But can we talk about the screens?
Yes.
So that is an interesting element. For a lot of, the screens which show the villain's perspective as death slowly stalks towards him.
Oh, and also great monologue at the open the episode about death approaching.
Yeah.
And how you can't escape it.
Now we're jumping around because there's a lot to say, I guess, but that monologue, I think, was super effective, super useful for the episode. That clearly that's what they're going for. This is death incarnate. There's no reason to keep us in suspense. There's no reason to hide it. Tell us what you're doing here, and we will respond. We will react, and we will appreciate the fact that creeping death creeps so slowly.
Yeah, and here's a thing also I love about the monologue. I like how many episodes these days have started with monologues. I like that way of starting the episode. I like the addressing the audience thing.
Although I think it would have been weird if you'd been on camera, like in Listen.
Oh yeah, not being on camera is also nice.
Because it's good in this case because it's too energetic and cheerful for considering we came off a companion death last episode.
Yeah, well, and him
wrong.
being in the TARDIS would be weird. Like,
yeah,
at no point in these events will he ever be in the TARDIS.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas at a point, whereas he is, and the TARDIS sections always kind of take place outside of time.
Yes, but it's still weird. It would still have been weird.
Yeah. Oh, it would have. It would not have fit the isolation. It would have been too comforting for him to start in the TARDIS.
You reminded me of something, if you're done with that.
Well, I have one other one I wanted to say, which was the other thing with the camera work that I liked. The Doctor digging the hole to find the message, I am in room 12. The way it transitions day to night, I actually was watching it, and I think they had an interesting practical effect to it as well. Because
that's a very interesting lighting change.
The lighting change was great. It was in one shot as he is doing this, but also as he's doing this and the light goes from day to night. Which I like that they went warm for night and not the typical cool for night. This whole episode was very warmly colored, which I thought was a great choice because Doctor Who lately has been very blue.
Mm-hmm.
And being blue would have been a bit too familiar.
Yeah, so I guess if you want a weird place, you can switch up the color palette.
Yeah, so and the color correction as well.
I mean, it's all part of the same stuff.
Yeah.
What colors are in your episode? You can decide there on the set, or you can decide in post.
Yep. And so but I also think that this was also a practical effect. Because he was clearly going down a little more than he should as he was digging and the light fell. So what I think they were doing was they had Capaldi standing on a platform, doing the digging, and slowly lowered the platform as they switched the lighting.
Oh, I'd love to watch that shot again then, because that sounds awesome, and I didn't notice that.
Yeah, and maybe I'm just imagining it, but that's what it looked like to me.
But that shot is great because the color it simply doesn't look real. which is great.
Yeah.
Because it's the idea of time passing, and in this strange place, just nothing feels natural anyway.
Yeah.
And it's best to lean into that.
Yeah. And like goes day to night while he's digging, then we cut up and we look down and he's fully in the hole. And it's like all the way up to his neck, which you couldn't have done with like just the lowering of the platform thing. And extending that past like basically, I thought it basically went from like here to here. So it's not a huge lowering. Like extending that
just a little bit would go a long way.
Yeah.
If the effect you're talking about was real.
Yeah.
At this point, I feel like I have too many different things I want to touch on.
Well,
sound design.
Sound design.
So it's very important. The buzzing is a very useful tool for establishing how much danger the Doctor is in. The buzzing of the flies. There was the showing of the flies, and initially I thought there were bugs on the screen. I wasn't quite sure. I was about to stand up and go swipe them away, but yeah, they're the bugs, and sometimes you see them, and that's freaky and all. But it's weirder that the buzzing will sometimes grow in the background, and you're like, oh, the Doctor doesn't notice for some reason, but he's screwed if he doesn't turn around.
Yeah. And like he has a reason he's afraid of flies. It is. And that is specifically how he realizes this is not only just like a torture, this is his personal
torture chamber.
Yeah. I liked that, and everything makes sense, wraps up at the end.
Another minor point.
Yeah.
I was a little bit worried, not so much worried, even this I would have maybe accepted, that it was going to be they needed the screens everywhere, so that the Doctor, a la Bootstrap Paradox, would be able to become that person later and do through all.
I was very worried about that. I was worried that's why like you never saw the creature's face.
Yeah.
And like after it touched him and he was all burned up, I was like, oh.
Now he's going to become the evil,
Yes.
And then it will all become part of the Doctor's plan. So, if we're all the Doctor's weird plan, which I don't think it could possibly be. Because he was teleported there against his will.
Yeah.
Like, it would be stupid because then it would all be just a weird game he was playing with himself.
Yeah.
It was a weird game he was playing with himself at the will of some unknown party. And to some extent, how much I will like this story is dependent a little bit on who that party was.
It appears to be the Time Lords now.
It would have to be some Time Lord.
Because he ends up back on Gallifrey.
Yeah.
Which interesting.
We're back at that point,
and I'm glad. As I was saying, I'm glad Clara is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Clara is definitely like we got her getting another line or two, but
it really took them a while. They didn't let the line out easy, and oh god, they didn't have her babbling the whole episode. That's not a knock on Jenna Louise Coleman. Just it would not have felt right.
Right. I might have accepted a little of it in his return to the TARDIS scenes. Because, as he says, like, this is where he likes to show off and make her laugh and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have accepted her having lines, but not babbling.
Mm-hmm. But, like, let's talk about the TARDIS scenes.
Okay, yeah.
At first, when he popped through the TARDIS, I was delighted because I thought that he had gotten teleported there to stop him from dying.
Yeah.
I was really confused.
Especially as he launches into the explanation.
Yeah.
I love the explanation he gets. So he jumps out a window and we see him walk into the TARDIS and launch into an explanation of like, he's like, yes, I almost died there. And I'm going to tell you how. But he also explains that his philosophy of torture, which is that, I love this, when you're in a torture chamber, you are the only indispensable thing in that room. That is your room. Own it.
And I sort of felt like, weirdly, it wasn't as much. Like, I thought it was almost going to be some sort of, like, simulation or something.
Yeah.
Because it seemed to me when he jumped out the window, I was like, yeah, Doctor, that's right. This is clearly all bullshit, and I'm sure they're going to keep you alive no matter what it takes. The truth is, actually, he could have died.
Yeah.
So actually, it was maybe not a smart move.
I like... this is a really good look into the Doctor's head, and especially the way this Doctor has worked. which is, as they say in the first episode of the season, assume you win.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see how assume you win plays out. Just do a thing, picture yourself having succeeded, put these figure step B to, like, step A is I did something crazy. Step Z is I've already won. Imagine yourself having won, work your way through.
Mm.
He didn't. It wasn't that they saved him. It was that this was like him imagining having won, and working it out in his head.
Okay, it was great that Clara was always facing away.
Yep. Until the very end.
Until the very end. I did think it was a little bit weird. Here's a nitpick that stuck with me a little bit more than most nitpicks. The fact that we would hear the chalk on the chalkboard, and then we would cut to the thing written in chalk, but it was always a static image of the thing written in chalk. We would never see it written.
Yeah.
It was kind of through you, because it felt like the chalk writing and the actual image of the chalk were somehow disconnected.
I didn't get that.
It's like it actually bugged me quite
Yeah.
a bit. It was like it's just continuing. She's always writing, but you never see it. But that doesn't seem to be like what they're going for.
I never had an issue like that.
Okay, well, there's my issue.
It's fine.
Let's see. Oh yeah,
She only talks at the end of the episode, where she basically says, "You're not the only one who lost anyone. Whoever lost anyone, get over yourself." Basically, in so many words.
So I wouldn't be surprised if she's done.
Yeah, and that was a good high point goodbye. And as I've talked about David Tennant, I want to have a high point goodbye.
As opposed to a David Tennant goodbye?
As opposed to a David Tennant I don't want to go, or a Donald Noble.
My whole life is shit again.
Yeah, like I want a goodbye where I feel like I've gone on a journey with this person. I want like the Matt Smith goodbye.
Mm-hmm. Perfect goodbye.
Yeah, or even the Eccleston goodbye was all right.
Yeah.
You know, like saying I'm going to change, but it's all going to be okay.
That was fantastic, even if it was only for a season.
Yeah. I was a really good line. You were fantastic, and you know what? So was I.
You know, since we're talking about who's fantastic, might as well mention I'm pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah, I want, the goodbye to feel like this journey is over.
Yeah.
And that would be perfect. And I'd be a little disappointed if they bring her back. Again, contractually they may be obligated, and she may be obligated to be brought back.
To appear in some respect in the...
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm now convinced that she is really dead, though.
Oh, yeah, she's definitely...
Yeah.
Whew! I'm sure they're not going to do anything, like...
Her exit is safe.
Yes. We were worried there would be, like, some level of...
Sci-fi bullshit.
Yeah. Not to be too sci-fi.
Not to be too sci-fi.
But...
So, other thing we didn't mention... It is really rather clever that this is the confession dial.
Yep.
Saw this one coming too. This episode is full of things that we saw, that both of us saw coming, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, when we say I saw it coming, it's not like, sort of
you think you're so clever, Moffat.
That's part of
the thing. Notice that
we've
spent so much time discussing it. That's a good sign that it is actually clever. That we're getting so much mileage out of discussing the events.
Yeah, it was clever, and the thing is, it was not trying to show off how clever it was.
Yeah.
There was no moment, and I know you've said that you feel this a lot about the time loops. I felt it about some of them. I didn't necessarily feel this about something like Angels, but I felt it on a lot of other ones.
Angels Take Manhattan?
No.
Blink.
I'm
sorry. I don't know why.
I
went to that bad one first.
Yes, the famous
Angels Take Manhattan.
But there's often a feeling of, like, kind of like, hey, see what I did there? You see that?
Yeah, and now he's old, but he's in the bed. He's lived 4,500 years in that time.
Isn't this pretty cool? And even if I'm like, yeah, that is pretty cool.
You know what?
This one has more grace, dignity, and confidence.
And the reason it does is because this feels like it's something personally for the Doctor. Moffat manage to keep his own ego out. And Moffat sometimes has trouble with that. This is about the Doctor being in this strange place, struggling with these strange difficulties.
Yeah.
And everything about it is... It's a weird subtlety. Maybe I'm not capturing what I mean quite well. Regardless, it seems right.
Yeah. Great, absolutely wonderful episode. Absolutely amazing performances.
Well, I'm Capaldi. I blanked on his name.
Capaldi and...
Who was that?
Capaldi and...
Capaldi?
Capaldi and Katy Perry.
But, it was a little bit weird that he was always talking to Clara. They did set it up. It just... I don't know, I didn't quite buy someone talking to themselves to that extent. I liked the idea that they quickly abandoned at the beginning of the episode, that he would be yelling at someone who's presumably watching him from some camera, which I think would have been interesting. And we won't get to see that version of the episode ever, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, him talking to Clara...
That's a very minor nitpick, because I can't even guarantee that it would be a better story if they did it my way.
I can't do that song. I can't imitate Sinatra. I know.
I won't try. No. That's the first time I've ever passed up singing.
Yeah, I was trying as well, and I was like, no, you know what? I'm not Sinatra. But yeah,
the confession dial. I was going to say.
If I can get back to...
I mean, I was trying to say the confession dial thing for quite a while.
Yeah, go for it.
Unless this is more related to what you're saying.
It was a little more related to what you just said about Capaldi. And why I liked it was this story was so much insight into the Doctor. So I liked him talking to Clara in these sections, not so much in that it helped this episode specifically, but that I feel it helped, in a way, every other episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as well, to see how the Doctor... It's a rare look into how the Doctor thinks.
And it seems like the kind of character moment that sticks. This feels so right for the Doctor. It's going to be part of my experience of the Doctor for years to come.
Yeah.
Is the knowledge that maybe he won't do this in his next incarnation, but he'll be similar to the guy who did.
Yeah.
Who was always thinking, how am I going to joke about this event to my companion?
Yeah, and thinking through problems, this problem solving technique.
You have to win, so how did you win?
Yeah.
You might as well assume you won.
Yeah, his problem solving technique, I love it, and it works so well for so much of the Doctor. To be...
Yeah.
Like
they were talking about in the season premiere this season.
Yeah.
Where, why does the Doctor always win? It's 'cause why does the Doctor blah blah blah? It's because he always assumes he'll win.
Yeah. So he starts with the assumption I won. And we see how he starts with the assumption I won and how he solves it. He starts with himself walking into the room saying, here's how I won. And then tries to figure out what he would say after that. It aids every episode after it. This was... Yeah, go back to what you were saying with the dial.
Just the confession dial. Like, there were a number of little mysteries. Oh yeah, I remember what distracted me. We were talking about the fact that there were a lot of twists that weren't critical that you get be surprised. The fact that this is inside the confession dial, they set it up. I saw it coming, but it seemed very clever. It's like all the gears and the shape, and if you're thinking about it, if you just pause, you'll be like, this is a little like the confession dial, and then you know the truth.
Yeah.
Because this is this weird place that doesn't quite make sense.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, this is what the confession dial does. I don't know why you would make a last will and testament put you in a torture universe, but okay. Like, I'm willing, that's clearly what's going on. And it makes it, again, more personal to the Doctor, because of course it's personal to him. It's his will.
Mm-hmm. This is how he gets out all of his secrets.
Maybe Time Lord lawyers have to go inside and like fight the Grim Reaper in order to learn what it says.
Yeah, and I think also really wonderfully the fact that And here's the thing that I think is kind of great. So this is the Doctor's confession dial.
Yes.
So this is his personal hell that he made. So not even the Doctor can beat the Doctor.
Mm-hmm. Also, it's interesting. I'd love to know, for world building purposes, just to know, how is a confession dial made, and why doesn't he know what it's like inside?
Yeah.
It must be something really interesting.
Yeah. And what I like from this is it's kind of a very positive thing. Good triumphs over evil to a certain extent here. It reminds me a little of Jack Kirby's New Gods, that the son of the good god who is raised in hell, basically, turns into a good guy, and the son of the bad god raised in heaven also turns into a good guy, because good wins. And in this universe, the Doctor will do what's right. Nothing can stop that, not even the person who knows him best coming up with this. Not even somebody outside of him. This is, as I see it, his thinking, how would I break me?
Yeah.
And not even he can do it.
How would I fail?
Yeah. What is the one situation I can think of I couldn't get out of it, and he can still get out of it? So this was perfect. Not perfect, but this was also another great thing. I often say to care about a character's victory, we need to see them suffer. To have like the high point, you need the low point. And this is one hell of a low point. The middle part of a trilogy almost always has the low point. This is one hell of a low point, so when he gets to the high point, it will feel that much more, because we saw him on the verge of breaking down. If he got to the end and didn't have that moment where he just sort of sits down, like wants to give up and Clara talks him out, but he talks himself out of it, then the victory would not matter as much.
The one last thing I have to say is it's just something I somehow managed to never quite say.
Yeah.
Is, as you're saying, the brilliant camera work, great shots. They succeeded in creating so many memorable shots.
Yeah.
And that becomes important when the montage hits.
Yeah.
Because then you can feel him experiencing a full loop, if you like. Just by, like, the little glass fell.
Yeah.
Oh, the spoon fell into the soup. Like, skull falling, a lot of things fell. This door opens, digging, like, all these things, they can just show an instant of it. Just a few frames, and you remember it, and you remember when it happened.
It brings back the emotion. Yeah.
It brings back the emotion, and it brings back the sense of, like, all these events and this massive sequence. And that's special because it's so important for us to feel like we're there.
Yep. This was really an amazing episode, and I really loved it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I could say, and I bet there would be, but I can't think of it right now. I like that it played fair.
Yeah.
I think this was one that didn't care if you could, like, it thought, maybe the Moffat thought the solution was really clever, but it didn't care that you thought it was clever. Because, like, I feel like a lot of the time, with the twist solution, it's like, there was nothing self-congratulatory. There was no...
Okay, the Doctor was being congratulated by the show, but
for not giving up.
For being the character of the Doctor, not the show Doctor Who, not...
there was no part, like, where the story seemed to say, this story is really good.
Yeah.
It was the show, this was a story...
About the Doctor being awesome.
Yeah. And the Doctor was... Like, and so yeah, it wasn't saying, look how clever. There was no line like, all right, this is where things get complicated. Which we love that line. It's a very self-congratulatory line.
Yeah.
It's saying, watch out, I'm about to do something cool. There was no moment where there was a thing where I was like, watch out, you're about to get your answer, and it's gonna blow your mind. It was just the Doctor. And so I feel like those episodes of, like, when it's like, it's about to get complicated. I feel like I wasn't impressed. That kind of
tanks the whole thing.
Tanks the episode a little, and like you get the episode, the Philly episode will be like, oh. You like if, after this one, I feel like if you say, yeah, I saw that coming, the episode's like, but it was good, right? Like I don't care that you saw it coming. I just care that I told a good story, and that was what mattered. It was not defensive like that, you know. It was not. Yeah, but you liked it. You liked it. It was like, yeah, but I told a good story. So why do you care that you saw it coming?
I think that my grade ultimately will be somewhat based on watching again and deciding whether it really tells a truly thematically effective story. How does death fit into this? What does that have to do with... Is this death more like suffering from Clara's death or fearing his own? Like, how does this all fit into the confession dial? Why is it his will and testament? And maybe these are answers we'll get in the next episode. Or maybe they're things that you can search for more in this one.
Yeah,
but ultimately, that's what I'm thinking about is like whether this gets maybe an A+ or an S grade.
Yeah, I'm going to drastically undershoot my grade on this episode because, and the reason I feel like I'm going to give it a grade that I'm probably going to say it likely deserves better than the grade I'm going to give it right now.
D.
Worst episode. The reason being that I feel like there's so much I'll have to think through to truly understand this episode that undershooting it now is not my saying would be like me isn't me giving it a grade that I think it wasn't, you know, good. It's me saying like there's more to it than I can grade.
Okay.
At the moment. At the moment, 5 minutes after we saw it, I'm giving it a B+. But I'm going to say, stay tuned. We will do a regrade where we will run back through our opinions on everything. Look for this to be getting an A then, is how I feel.
Quite possibly. Now, if you're going to use that scale, then I feel a little bit weird because you had talked me up into giving it more of a break while I wait. But maybe that's the wrong approach. Maybe you're right. It's better to give it a worse grade.
I'd rather
undershoot than overshoot.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to give it then what I was planning to give it before you almost convinced me to give it an A. I'm going to give it a B+.
Yeah.
I think it's too quintessential. Here I am changing it again. I'm going to say A-. It just seems important.
Yeah, I'm going to say... Like
last episode, I gave an A because it seemed important, not just because it was good on its own merits.
Basing it beyond its own merits, A+. Basing it beyond its own merits, this episode recontextualizes 50 years of television for me. So that is hugely important. Based purely on its own merits, I'm saying B+, but I bet I'm going to say when we regrade A+ or even an S.
So maybe these grades aren't the most, for this episode, aren't going to be the most consistent or likely, but B+, A- for now.
Yeah, but still absolutely amazing. And if you are a fan of Doctor Who, if you're going into it liking Doctor Who already, A+.
Awesome. So,
all right,
see ya.
Bye.